Okay, so we're going for a great gravy crescendo. You just Google military in red high heels, and then click show all images, and they'll show you how they paraded them through the town in red high heels. And from my video yesterday, you may have heard me mention this. The military in red high heels. And this has more to do with transgenders in the military than it does with being in solidarity with women or raising awareness about sexual assault. And I'm going to unravel the wizardry spell here for you. But just so you don't think you know where we're going with this, there's Moses depicted with some horns in the Bible on his dome. And you can buy this one now on Etsy.com for a mere $500. Horned Moses. Now my mentor, you might say, of Jazzwee.com. I'll leave a link in the description to her website and you can go harass her about it. But she's been Mandela affected a long time, but I didn't know, and she started JeffSnyder2.com. I sent her some money and like 5 different pieces of the plasma wood. She's not just a random person. And I'll talk more about that later. But she started JeffSnyder2.com, and she's kind of been a mentor to me. And she says she has a sculpture of Moses that she filed the horns off of in like 2017. She literally filed the horns right off of her sculpture, her statue of Moses, because she said she got it from her mom. And for as long as her mom had it, it never had horns. And when her mom gave it to her, it never had horns. And at some point, she realized that statue has horns. And I even made fun of her in one of my videos. I was like, can you imagine being like her husband in the kitchen, having a beer with one of your buddies while she's in there filing the horns off her Moses statue? Be like, hey man, what's your wife up to in there? Oh, she's filing the horns off that statue. I could see that. Why is that? She thinks we're in some sort of like a matrix glitch in a tangent of a reality that we shouldn't be in, and that Moses never really had horns. Just keep your mind open as we go through these things. We'll circle back like Jen Psaki. This is all going somewhere. I'm going to tie it all in together here. Follow along. And by the way, Imagine Dragons has a new video out where they got to get through all the dragons that they're fighting against to get to the great white dragon and the great light white dragon at the end that they ride away. So don't be a anti-dragite. But in this video that I made, where they gave me the perfect thumbnail photo, titled, "My Gift to You is a Fear Inoculum," someone's comments are what we're going to read here for a minute. Because I threw in at the end of that video the reference of Taylor Swift showing you that these dragons turn into dust, and that the serpent strikes and turns into butterflies, and she's trying to relinquish your fear of these things that you've been locked into. C. Lacey here said that Taylor's bad reference because he lives in deception. Just saying and knowing. Now remember, I'm going to show you the texts from my boss that I sent to and from my boss that resulted in the owner of the company tracking me down using the GPS on the truck at the truck stop on Friday after I dropped my last load to take charge of a situation, because I threw my boss under the bus in the same way that I take people down to the mat intellectually, conceptually, based on their beliefs here on YouTube, and that James does the same. I've had to do this to a couple people recently and found it people 77 G Slinger. That was one of my first. Mia's new pair of glasses. Richie from Boston. I've been doing this a while. And I do it in real life, where the rubber meets the road. I've sent links to my YouTube page to my dispatcher, so I put my mouth where my money is. And I actually do this in real life, not just call people out onto the mat online, because when we no longer have this internet between us and we're actually online telepathically, some of our beliefs will live and survive based on their own merit, and others will perish and die. And that is what James True says in one of the 2 videos that I'm about to outline for you and show you in the points where I understand what he's saying, my understanding of what it is that he is saying. With that, we'll move along here. So what I'm saying is we're not picking on C. Lacey here any more than he's picking on Pedro or Pablo that he uses as an example, any more than I'm picking on the other people. They are the landmark in the conceptual landscape that we have to use and work with right now. And for me to use these people as a reference to convey a concept and an understanding is nothing personal. It's based on principle, not personal. So, C. Lacey here says Taylor's a bad reference. He lives in deception, just saying. Indicating the conspiracy theory that Taylor Swift is a tranny.
Really work very well. There's a dude on Twitter who is posting photographs of beautiful women throughout history and explaining to you how they're a tranny. And I want you to know that this person has a female avatar. Pretty sure it's a dude. Pretty sure he's a tranny. And I want you to see that field frequency that he's setting up, which is trannies are bad, I'm a tranny. Trannies are bad, he's injecting that vibration. It's fascinating. It's how vaccine.
This is what I've explained, that these movements actually are the opposite of their namesake. Everything from Black Lives Matter to Occupy Wall Street to the feminist movement that was made by Adam Weishaupt, who would say in his own writings that we can get these women working for us with zeal, unbeknownst to them, by just appealing to their sense of vanity and giving them hints of emancipation. It was white males that created the feminist movement. Males that created the feminist movement. Whites that created the Black Lives Matter movement so they could result it in burning down Wendy's and AutoZones. Bankers that created the Occupy Wall Street movement so they could turn it into a shithole in Zuccotti Park. And I've explained this quite a few times, and James explains it here in the same fashion where creating the opposition to something, he explains it that if you were a family of vampires, the best thing for you to do would start a vampire hunting company. He doesn't explain this part about that's how you could keep track of all the vampire hunters that would be a threat to you, is by hiring them. Controlled opposition on a whole nother level. So I'm about to go through and decode, if you will, translate from James speak to Jeff speak, or add to and enhance and translate and superimpose his concepts onto my own where they have overlap, of these 2 videos that he made, Baptism of Osiris and Energetication. What we just watched about him showing that there's the guy online creating controlled opposition against the trannies by saying, trannies are bad, I'm a tranny. Trannies are bad, I'm a tranny. Creating that controlled opposition is at 5 minutes into this video right here, Energetication. So after a little bit of back and forth, in the main comment that she left, she jumped up to my links that I put in the video and replied to those to continue the conversation here, and she had had enough and said this is going to be her last comment, and then she's never going to subscribe again, and that there'll never be women. And so I said, so you're going to get in the last word and then run away? That's real grown up of you. What if beings from planet Venus are neither male nor female? Then they will never be a woman, nor will they ever be a man. But your emotional mind control that you've been subjected to causes you to have this emotional reaction that causes you to disengage your mind and not allow yourself to think beyond the indoctrination that you've received. The only reason you would run away is because you're afraid you might be convinced or persuaded, and it would make it more difficult to cling to your preconceived ideas, and so you must not allow yourself to even hear my influence, or it may cause you to learn, which is the process of discarding old ideas with new. Are you just as certain that the earth is flat and that space is fake and that there are no such things as beings who live on the planet Venus? We may all soon be united as one under the umbrella of being shown that we were all wrong. And that would be the unifying glue that gives us a tie that binds, once again, of common beliefs and understandings through the exposure to the truth that all of our beliefs and understandings were incomplete and incorrect. Refer now to the horned Moses we started this video with. And then I gave her a link to that video, Energetication by James True, that said I've only watched the first 5 minutes of this video that is not available to anyone on the internet, only a special few, and I thought I would share with you because in the first 5 minutes it pertains to the conversation we are having now, and that's how the spirit works in mysterious ways in this world. You're welcome. Energetication at 5 minutes exactly is where James True talks about the tranny online that's running the anti-tranny movement, how they create the outline of opposition as a place for that movement to sit and exist. And without that opposition to it, it cannot exist. So when, C. Lacey, James shows you that there is a guy online who is creating this energy within you and charging you up with that emotional charge that wells up within you that makes you go, there'll never be a woman, ever. I don't care. I'm going away and I'm unsubscribing. That energy within you is being charged up by the very force which you are opposed to. And once you can see this, everything else is up to you to figure it out. That's where it starts and ends with my explanation of why you need to pay attention. That alone should give you question and pause and really make yourself ask, are my feelings about this subject even my own? Or have I been given this and energized? Energetication is the name of his video that we're about to go over, and I'm going to go over some spots and show you what it means to me in these places where I understand the concepts that he is conveying, so that you might be able to watch these 2 videos and have a greater understanding of them yourself and be able to apply them to your own life instead of saying I'm unsubscribing and let those emotions overwhelm you. They can empower you if you can control them. You must remember how you felt before that experience in your life that gave you that feeling. Some experiences give you little ripples, others great waves of emotions. But unless and until you learn how to ride those waves of emotions, they push you around your whole life. Emotional mind control. If you can remember how you felt before that experience in your life that gave you that wave of emotion, you can then call upon that emotion for the empowerment of it at your will. Otherwise, it overwhelms and overpowers you and tosses you around like a ship on the ocean unless and until you rein those emotions in. And I'm trying to help you understand who planted those emotions inside of you to cause you to have that emotional mind control. And that's why I'm trying to help you break free by talking about Venusians that are hermaphrodites and showing you Moses has horns. Let go of those things you think you know. That's how you flip the switch. This is going to be a short segment of an animation called The Gloaming, which I have covered and decoded and will include the entire decoding linked in the description, but it shows the transhumanism that we are facing, which is what James describes in the rising and falling of Osiris and Isis, and the golden dildo he talks about is a technological version of what the natural man did for her, which is what is being depicted in this part right here. As organic God looks in and sees humans, what were once humans that reproduced naturally, reproducing now simultaneously on some sort of machines which manufacture the reproduction. That manufacturing of what was once done organically, I believe, is what James is referring to in this video titled The Baptism of Osiris. Now I'm going to just go over some notes that I took and show you just how the raw gravy is made when I show you the notes regarding this video and then the notes regarding this video. And I suggest you take notes or take screenshots as I scroll through these. That way you can see what I conceive of James relaying to us in these videos, because otherwise it seems like some mystery school gobbledygook nonsense still. But once you follow along line upon line, precept upon precept, you can be given the understandings of what these storylines mean, these archetypes we were given as it relates to our current world. And James explains in this one, where you can see it's the same exact image as up here on this little piece of silver that he's holding, how the energetication of the opposing force is what creates the movement that you join onto. So you need to understand this stuff, or you're going to get sucked into some sort of anti-tranny movement that's created by the tranny movement. Get it? Now, I'm not going to go over each one of these the way I'm going to do the first one here. I say 10:40, but at about 10 minutes, James starts talking about how we created the internet because we can't face the fact that we can do the same exact thing naturally. And so we create this external, artificial version of what we are naturally capable of doing, which is what Greg Braden spoke of, that we only explore external technology for so long, and then we redirect our attention to an internal technology, which is what I was referencing yesterday when I showed that video by M83 Midnight City, where the kids break out of the lab and turn on all of their psychic abilities. So now let's cut to at 10:40, where he talks about how we go online telepathically.
Guys. The reason why we have the internet and recordings is because some of us are not comfortable knowing that we can open wormholes in the ether. And these wormholes, we can store information for others to access later. To make it easier for people to accept this monumental truth, we had to create the internet. The internet and recordings and phone calls are training wheels that society needs to get up. And some of you, most of you not here, but some of you will curse the training wheels. Seriously, you're out there going, oh, those training wheels are fucking evil, man. We're gonna go out here and kill any kid who tries to learn a bicycle. That's right, we're gonna...
So now that you know how these timestamp notes work, you can take screenshots if you'd like, and then go watch the video and watch for these things as they come up, because he doesn't exactly say we all go online telepathically, but he does if you listen, if you know what he's talking about. And on that note, I won't even mention that. Let's just move on. So these are the notes. At 32 minutes, he references a temple of Autour without soot or ash inside. See, and I translate my own writings because I just use voice to text and it mistranslate. It got foot and ass. But the temple of Autour has no soot or ash inside, exactly as described by Greg Braden in one of his videos. I think it was Awakening to Zero Point or Beyond Zero Point, where they go and show you pictures of this temple of Autour with no soot or ash inside, which begs the question, how did they light the place up? And he explains it right here. The heavy lid on the top of the bull, B-U-L-L, causes a piezoelectric discharge that causes this tomb to glow. Braden said we would reach a point where we no longer develop external technology, but redirect our intention inward toward the internal technology that we ourselves are, and the outward technology is only a reflection and a simulation of our internal technology. And this golden place, this golden phallus, it got palace, but I meant golden phallus. This golden phallus, artificial technologically developed version of the natural technology of a male human phallus, which we went over a second ago. Let's get this right here so you can take a screenshot. There you go. At 40 minutes, 30 seconds, he's describing Sam I Am and their attempt to quietly recruit for New Babylon out in the woods. Sam, we're going to talk about that some more, but you're going all the way, brother. So I respect you for that, because half measures availed us nothing. But those people that you're assembling your remnant resort with out in the woods, you're all going to show your true colors to one another real quick, and it's going to really extract those true colors and see what you're based on principles or how far those scriptures go, because in word and in deed is how you're really going to know each other now. At 4500, he speaks of a boat with a motor or a sail, which is just like the organic male or the golden phallus, a technological facsimile of the natural forces or using natural forces. He's saying we're going to have to go back to nature, is what he's saying. You'll hear about more talk about this here in a second, about the plasma fires and how that kind of enhances the urgency. He's picked up thousands of feet of boat, and that is the image of the music. Thousands of stranded boats on dry islands is the imagery in the music by Kansas that shows these boats on dry land. And this is what he talks about. People that are based their life on the rock. I'm solidly founded on the rock. I don't need to adjust my sail or my rudder because you're not in the water. You're on dry land, and you refuse to get in the water where you do have to adjust your sail and your rudder according to the changing wind currents and water currents beneath you to make your way through this transitioning environment that we're going through. But you're locked on true north, John 3:16, built on the rock. You ain't moving a damn place. And in the real world, in the changing environment that we are in, only those who change their pitch of their sail and their rudder in accordance to keep them pointed toward truth, when they find out so many lies were embedded in that book, all you have to change is a few. Moses having horns? I've been over a lot of that stuff. Anyway, we won't go over that. I'll include the link in the description with the Kansas music video where I show all these dry docked boats, and that's what they're referencing, is that people that built their life on the rock rather than put their boat in the ocean. And then James said to open your sail and pull your motor out of the water and return to nature and abandon the technological external facsimile of your true internal technology and connect and your connection to the natural forces that allow us telepathy. He said we needed to create the internet for as a representation or reflection or substitute therefore. Trying to keep it in the screen. Where is it? Substitute therefore. There we go. Side note, that's a note from my trip to Missouri. We'll talk about that another time. The girl who appeared to be the oracle receiving the pedicure at the homeless camp said we need to get back to nature and out of, I'll just read it. Side note, the oracle at the homeless camp in Missouri, that she received the understanding that we need to return to nature and get out of the cities, and plasma fires seem to add a little emphasis to that urgency. In the cities, they leave the trees standing and take down everything electrical, everything metal. Yeah. At 47 minutes, he speaks of paying it forward, creating a torus, and trusting that the thrust will be behind you when you pay it forward and carve your vision into the future. That parallels with the law of attraction and trusting that the vortex will fill in the grid around you. Those are terms that Esther Hicks uses. Abraham Hicks, when she channels Abraham, is the vortex and the grid filling in around you. And as you project your will and intention into the future and focus your attention on those things that are in alignment with your deepest, truest desires and find joy and love. Joy is what the feeling that you get when you do what is in alignment with your true nature. Love is a label that you assign anything that brings you those feelings of joy. I've explained that before. Focus. As we begin to manifest instantly with the lack of magnetic field, which is what Braden said that would happen when the magnetic field disappears. He said the magnetic field is like the sticky stuff that is like the glue that creates the lag time between your thought and intention and the manifestation of reality. But everything in our reality, as James says here, as Braden said then, everything in our reality is a manifestation of a belief that started beforehand. And when the magnetic field disappears, we manifest instantly. And Braden said, what a weird, what a crazy, chaotic world that would be right now because we don't know how to handle our emotions. You would have a thought about your boss. Well, I wish that guy would just go F off and die, and poof, it happens. You could not control your manifestation right now if you were given the ability to, and that's what this is all about. As we begin to manifest instantly with the lack of magnetic field, shooting for that our rockets of desire, or paying it forward with our will and intention, and trust that the vortex will fill in the grid around you, and coming to know your true power and your true nature is opening your sail and abandoning that artificial, technological, or external physical exertion of your will in order to manifest the world around you and fashion it to your liking. And that's what James says. It's time to open your sail. He emphasizes that in such a way that it cannot be unrelated to the muse messages I and others have been receiving about sail away with me, honey. I put my heart in your hands. At 47 minutes, he directly and explicitly references the fact that airplanes don't need fuel to fly, as has been discovered in other parts of the truther community, that these airplanes are running on technology that we don't understand, and that they are not burning millions of gallons of fuel that they claim are being burned. If we regain our ability to manifest instantly through our free will, thought, intention, and desire, then those who do not have a heart that is light as a feather and filled with love will manifest their own hell on earth and destroy themselves. James speaks, I'm roughly quoting him here, because everything in our world was created from belief. There's some people that have real strong belief, and they're creating the world around us right now and showing us how strong their belief is, that they can believe it into a world that's beyond our comprehension. We don't know what the fuck just happened. Some beliefs will thrive on into the future, and others will perish and go away. And when we get telepathically connected, we won't have the distance of the internet between us. And that's when taking someone down to the mat on the internet is done in real life through your beliefs, your principles, your ideals, and whether or not your heart is truly out there on the remnant reserve resort where your heart truly is and what's truly in your heart. And you will manifest instantly the reality, like the movie called The Beach, where they went to make their own little paradise off on a beach in the middle of nowhere, away from all these evildoers of Babylon. And guess what they created in that movie, The Beach? By the end, it was hell on earth. It was a very popular movie with Leonardo DiCaprio. You might want to watch it. Sam I Am. At 50:30, he speaks of those who want to be slaves, just as Mason Weaver did, in What Will You Do with the Rope? I went over that recently. The difference between a slave and a prisoner is a mindset. The slave, the prisoner, if you throw him a rope over the wall, he'll grab that rope and get out. The prisoner, when he sees that someone's throwing a rope over the wall, he goes and runs and tells master, hey, someone's getting, these slaves are getting free. Nope, those aren't slaves that are getting free. Those are prisoners that wanted to get free. Slaves don't want to be free. Dollars are like battery storage units of energy, not only of your time, effort, and physical energy, but of your beliefs. And that is the case with all currency. And we are shifting to a new currency. And you are being given an opportunity to release from your old beliefs in order to invest in the new economy and choose a new form of currency in which to invest your beliefs and come to the realization that you need no external physical currency, and this is a resonance economy. And that's what he's talking about when you're going to go ripping the teddy bear out of a little girl's hands and rip its head off because she invests her beliefs in that and would rather have that than a brand new Lexus. So for her, that is currency in which she has invested her belief. Relate that to the plasma wood economy or the love economy, which I've described. And it talks about the plasma wood here in a minute. James, at 5800, James says he is a farmer of consciousness. I don't know how many times I've said that. On the way to Missouri, I said that people would be going through a process of self-selection where they would voluntarily submit themselves to the recycle bin and declare themselves unworthy of the kingdom of heaven. That is what James now calls the consent-driven genocide, aka the COVID plan and the vax. Consent-driven genocide, where people by a process of self-selection would voluntarily submit themselves to the recycle bin and declare themselves unworthy of the kingdom of heaven. As depicted in the movie I Pet Goat 2, James said Notre Dame Cathedral was a breaking of the hymen that would lead to the Immaculate Conception, which takes time, like the gestation period. And this alignment with the birth of this is in alignment with the birth of the Antichrist, which is depicted in iPad Goat 2. And by the way, the Notre Dame Cathedral was hit by these directed energy weapons, and Logic Before Authority showed you a black craft above Notre Dame Cathedral that was probably part of that process. And I showed you a portal in Notre Dame Cathedral being guarded by a serpent that goes down to something like the projector of this holographic reality, the flower of life, Metatron's cube, who knows? But James said the Notre Dame Cathedral was a breaking of the hymen, and you saw the Antichrist get birthed after that breaking of the hymen and the steeple fell in the I Pet Goat 2 movie. That would lead to an immaculate conception, which takes time like the gestation period. And this is in alignment with the birth of the Antichrist. Which, if you've been following along, because the Antichrist is already alive and well in this life and in positions of power and convinced you of the storyline being backwards and upside down, it would actually be the return of Christ. And they will depict this to you as the Antichrist because they are the Antichrist. James implied electricity as a living thing, and that parallels very well with J. Dreamer Z's depiction of plasma as a living entity that has been portrayed as such, and it always comes and picks off the bad guys when the cataclysms happen. And this may be why they say China has now developed directed energy plasma weapons that can pick off a single person. Who is it keeps repeating that? What's his name? Best Damn Podcast, John Keane, keeps repeating that China's developed these directed energy weapons that can pick off a single person. Apparently it was like in a DOD release or something. The idea of electricity being alive and conscious is a return to animism, where our world is animated and alive and everything in it is conscious and living, and the world around you is interacting with you. That's what James says. We're too scared to think of electricity as living. So to us, we still think of it as a dead thing. When you think of electricity as living consciousness that turns it into a spirit, the likes of the Prince of the Power of the Air, and then you remember the world we're in is inverted and the Antichrist is alive and well here and now, and that it is the spirit living plasma that they have told you is the devil, when it's actually the justice and the mercy simultaneously cleansing the culture. The next one, Energetication, will have to be in the next video because we're to the end of this video. But all of those were notes from Baptism of Osiris. Go ahead and watch the video if you want to keep up.